Hello, everybody. This is Dave and Holly, and we're here with Crystal Farley. She's a target individual. Thinks she's been targeted 4 years, but it could have been longer. And she's here to tell her story and get her story out there. And my first question for you is, could you give us a quick summary of what your life was like before targeting? What you did and all that, and what it's like now with targeting.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you both for your time today. I Before my targeting, I was a vice president in the tech industry. Had a happy-go-lucky life. Always laughed, always confident, always defending others is kind of what I'm known for, is defending others. I had a wonderful home. I had a beautiful pets. And fast forward to today, I'm darn near homeless. I've lost my home. I cannot get a job. I am on the terrorist watch list. I know this for a fact. A Bank of America employee let it slip when they wouldn't let me withdraw money last summer. I can't work. I cannot get a job. I can't get a job. Anything that requires a background check, I can't get a job. I mean, I've lost $650,000. I've lost my home. I had to rehome my pets. I've lost clothes. I've lost my furniture. All for being, I was a good person. Like I said, just somebody that defended others all the time. And now I'm just one notch above being homeless. My health it's all I think about 24/7. Every second of every day is I'm scared. I'm scared because I know who a lot of the people are. It's in my face. It's very overt, and I'm terrified. I'm terrified. It's much more than just a drone hanging out. I would welcome it if my targeting was just a drone hanging out my window. I would be able to cope with that. But mine's very overt and in my face.
I'm sorry you're going through that, and I know they basically destroyed all your life. And
Every
you heard
aspect
what
of
she
it.
said. She was happy go lucky, had a house, had it all, and now they've destroyed her life, and now she's basically got nothing, and she's on her last leg, almost homeless. Uh, so, can I ask you, when did your targeting start, and what did you start experiencing when it started?
Yeah, absolutely. So my targeting became overt 4 years ago, and I noticed everything in my life started going down the toilet in grand fashion. All walls started closing in around me all at once. So everything from work, which is what I cherished. I worked really hard to get to where I was in my career, working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, traveling on an airplane, flying across the country every week, and leading a team. And there was a couple of work instances that came up where I had to get attorneys involved. It was defending people on my team. So between my work collapsing, my family collapsing, my friend circle collapsing, people just being awful to me, verbally aggressive. And these would be friends that I've had for like 17, 20 years. And I couldn't figure out, like, what is going on? I called the police out to my house to help me with an instance with my son. I was having issues with my 23-year-old son, where the police wouldn't release their chest cam. My attorney that I had for my court case for work, where I was defending others, he bailed on me midway through the case. The Texas State Bar wouldn't take. I couldn't get an attorney to help me with the attorney that screwed me over. And long story short, every single thing around me was collapsing. People were just being awful, mean to me. So I knew something wasn't right, and I started losing my cool. You know, you hear they try to get you to have reactions, right? You know, they want you to react. They want you to kind of show your booty, so to speak. And I did that. You know, I started lashing out at people, but that was also when I was going through directed energy attacks, to the point to where I couldn't even function. I couldn't even type on a keyboard. So, but that, you know, the physical pain coupled with everything that was going wrong in my life, my work, my family, my friend circle, everything. I mean, I knew something was up. Like, this is not normal. So I started researching and researching and researching. And that's when I came across, you know, the term COINTELPRO or gang stalking or mass harassment.
Wow. So I'm interested. You said that you couldn't even type. Do they make your hands hurt with direct energy weapons? I don't know. I've been
Not
having
my
severe
hands.
pain in my arms and all the way down, like a very severe pain. So that's why I was just wondering if they were doing that to you. I've
It
heard a
wasn't
couple
my
other people.
hands. It was my neck and my brain.
Okay.
Extreme pain in my brain and in my neck, which radiated down to my hands, but my hands themselves did not hurt. But the directed energy, in my instance, was being used. It was either being used by someone within my home that's closely related to me, or my neighbor, because the directed energy portion stopped last June once I sold my house and left my home.
Okay. Was you experiencing shocks in your head too? Like in the back of your head? I was just wondering.
It was just it wasn't shocks. It was just a continuous throbbing. It literally felt like, you know, my brain needed a massage. It sent me to the ER. My organs were shutting down. I've never been in so much pain. And they say that these devices, the directed energy, they can induce rigor mortis. And my neck felt like cement. And I have a bad neck anyway. I've got 14 screws and 3 plates that hold my neck together today. And so it was almost like they were attacking the vulnerable spot, you know, in my body.
Right.
But I know
Well,
exactly who was using that weapon.
yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Do you know who your targeting is or why you're targeted?
I know absolutely who is doing my targeting. You know, that makes me
And do
a
you know
little
why?
different maybe than, you know, there could be a couple of reasons why. I think that, you know, I was a whistleblower for work. This did start right after a divorce from a family that's connected very, very high up within the government. And then, you know, based on there is a spiritual warfare component to this as well. I've had some of the strangest comments made to me. You know, Crystal, you need to watch the Da Vinci Code to know why you're being targeted. Your parables are fallacies. And I'm just like, what in the world? And these are from people that I know. These aren't strangers on the street. There is a couple, a husband and a wife, out of Denver, Colorado, and Gina and Homer. They are the reason why I'm on this list. And they're very elite, and they're part of the occult. So that's why. It has nothing to do with the fact that I was standing up and a whistleblower at these companies. It has nothing to do with my divorce, although I think it could have made it worse because of their connections. I've got family members that are involved. But Gina and Homer, I met somebody on a dating app, and they lied about being married. But they're the reason why I'm on this list. And they want me dead, to be clear. This isn't they can't hurt you. They won't hurt you. Well, they've tried. I've had hits on my life. And I was able to prove it. But I can't get an attorney, and I can't get the police to listen. I mean, the police, when I called them out to my home, you know, the police are certainly involved in my targeting, the Richardson, Texas Police Department. I had to call them to my home because I was having issues with my son. But when they showed up, they treated me like I was a monster. I am 5'6", 100 pounds. I'm 51 years old, and they had their hand on their gun. They didn't have their hand on their taser. They didn't have their hand on their spray. They had their hand on their gun. They were ready to haul me off. They wouldn't listen to a word I said. I wanted to have a conversation with the police department over issues that I was having with my son, being erratic, verbally abusive, and him not being himself. I tried to get him to leave my home to go and stay with my ex, and he wouldn't leave, so I had to call the police. But I wanted the police to know about these other instances I was having. I mean, heck, I would be in Home Depot, and I had a man do this, tell me I was going to get bit. He was making the throat slashing gesture. But the cops, had them turn on their chest cam prior to entering my home, and they would not release the chest cam to me, which
Wow.
I would think is illegal, but I couldn't do anything about it because I couldn't get an attorney.
Right. I know Texas.
So I know
law.
exactly. So and I had to go, I went to I tried to escalate that. They sent a letter. So the Richardson, Texas Police Department sent a letter to the Texas Attorney General in order to not release that chest cam to me. So that's how high up, it's been. I mean, I've even presented to the Department of Homeland Security. So a good friend of mine that I'd known for 17 years, her sister worked for the Department of Homeland Security. And I was in tears begging her for help. Like, you guys have got to be able to help me. I just thought for sure I was in the clear because my friend was going to help put me in front of these people, right? Well, no, that backfired big time. Backfired big time. Despite having a PowerPoint presentation, which I sent to you all, 130 slides of actual facts, actual names, actual dates. They wanted to treat me like whatever. I was not well.
Yeah, I think it's amazing how thorough that you've been, because you're very thorough. That video we watched, by the way, she does have a YouTube channel. She's only got one video up. What's the name of your YouTube channel?
It's Bodhi Meta. So BODHIMETA. Bodhi Meta.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you an experience. Texas don't play. I was walking down the road minding my business, and the police came, threw me in the back of the car, took me to jail, threw me in a cell, kept me there 3 days naked. Didn't talk to no nurse, no fingerprints, no nothing. Came, threw me my clothes, took me out in the wilderness and dropped me off. Well, I walked all the way back to town. They done it again. And then this time they said, all right, I stayed there 72 hours. They said, all right, we want you to sign a paper and you can go. We're not going to mess with you no more. We promise. Because I was screaming and everything. I signed that paper. They tackled me and took me to a mental hospital. I mean, so I'm not going to say what county because I really don't want to stir up nothing. But yeah, it happened in Texas. So I can imagine how they were to you when you encountered them. Do you have any questions, Holly, before I continue?
No.
Okay. So let me see.
I mean, I've been through 8 states, David. I've been through 8 states.
Yeah, I was in
it
12 in 6 months, and it followed me everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you first get targeted and you start, all this stuff goes down, you're like, well, I'll just move to another state and start over. And then, long as behold, when it follows you, you're like, wow. And I was so set on getting, like, I can just escape this. So I kept moving and moving and moving. But every time they were right there. So could you tell us a little bit about your moving and how instances and how quick they caught up with you when, how quick it start, or did it never stop when you moved?
It never stopped when I moved, and it was instant. And I got harassed. I had to sell my home because I couldn't afford the mortgage payment. I bought a camper. I bought a travel trailer, and was staying at RV parks. And that's probably the worst place that you can go as a targeted individual. because it's so easy for these guys to post up right next to you, which is what they did. I had people harassing me at each and every one of these RV parks. At one RV park in Kentucky, they tried to poison my dogs. I had people coming up to me saying, "I know who you are. I know what you are." It was awful, and I was all alone. You know, here again, the 50-year-old woman at the time. I'm 51 now. Having to go through all this all alone. It was so scary, and I'd already had my life threatened. I'd already had my attempts on my life that I had proven, and I'm having to traverse these 8 states all alone, scared to death, no support. And, you know, people don't want to believe you, and it's like I've had witnesses to a lot of these things before I even knew what it was, and in names and dates and in very well documented. And, you know, no one, just either they purposefully don't want to believe you, or they're being paid not to believe you, or they're in on it themselves. That's what I've learned, is people that, especially with my PowerPoint presentation, people that say they can't click on links, so they won't click on links, so they won't, you know, they refuse to review the information that I put forth, especially those that were supposed to be close to me. I knew for a fact, you know, those guys had been infiltrated and were looking for me to go down. I mean, the amount of money involved to see someone go down is life changing for some of these people. An old friend got a brand new driveway poured, you know, so I'm sure that was a good $6,000 to $10,000. So the money involved in my instance is big. And just to see people not care, not want to believe, not want to help, not offer a place to stay, is shocking.
Yeah, I remember that part of my targeting, and it's devastating. It's more than shocking. It's devastating, because everybody you thought was your friends, nobody wants to mess with you, and then you don't know why. You're like, what have they been told? And then everybody's being so mean and hateful to you, and you're just sitting there stuck, wondering, thinking. So, man, do you still get gang stalked? Do you have any instances of gang stalking you could share with us?
You know, I haven't been gang stalked in a while, simply because I'm out in the country now and I never leave my house. But prior to, yes, absolutely, especially going to those 8 states, people follow me around the campgrounds, either on foot or a car, you know, the whole one headlight business. You know, I went through all of that. But that's been a good, you know, 6 months ago, 6 to 9 months ago. So I came back to Texas in September. So I haven't had the actual gangs, the traditional being followed, since September.
Right. Holly, this wasn't even near Halloween, had this skeleton. This car drove by, and she took a picture of it too. So there's a skeleton on the back, a big gold skeleton on the back of this SUV.
Like human-like skeleton.
Yeah, and when they drove by her, they held up a sign that said, "You're dead." Yeah, so yeah, we go through the gang stalking stuff. I stay in the house. I'm agoraphobic, so I don't leave the house. So I every now and then they'll do street theater, like the power went off the other morning, and this truck saw me with my flashlight at the window, so he went and backed in our driveway and sat for a minute, and then he pulled off. You know, just stuff trying to freak me out. The whole neighborhood's blacked out, and he pulls in our driveway, and he, you know, but because he seen me in the window with a flashlight, I know that's why he done it. Or me and Holly was talking about gaslighting one day, and a truck that said gaslight on it pulls up in front of the house. And then Holly gets license plates that say certain messages.
Oh, they communicate with me by well, at first it was the headlight, one light on, one light off, hazards. The noise campaign was the first thing that I went through. They would stop in front of my home when I had a home. And you know, let it rip. It sounded like you were at the monster truck event outside of my home, yet nobody around me noticed the loud noises but me. So, you know, the first part of the program is to put you in total distress. And that they did. They broke in my house while I was at work. I had a great job, worked for a cardiology group. They sent me pictures on my phone of men in my kitchen while I was at work. When I got home, my animals would run out of the door. I opened the door and my animals would run for their effing life. And, they were scared to death. So, they kept breaking in my house. They put LSD in my wine, sent me on a trip one night. I'd never taken LSD in my life. I didn't even know I was on a trip until I went out back and saw hundreds of lights floating around me, and a cat was growling at me, and I realized, hey, something was in my wine. Must have been LSD. They broke in my house, murdered my cat while I was at work. They beat her to death. Blood splattered on the walls. She was paralyzed from the back down. They put a bomb on my car, blew my car up while I was driving, almost caused me a heart attack. They caused me to go blind with lasers. I went blind in my right eye from lasers, and I had to go through surgery to get some sight back. And they've caused cancer. I've just gone through thyroid cancer. Thyroid soaks up radiation, so the microwave radiation caused me cancer. I could go on and on and on and on what they've done to me. It's horrible. Then the gang stalking was so heavy. It was at work. Employees were involved. Hateful things being done, being said. People, they would drive hearse in front of me, behind me. And when, I think they killed my mother. She died of cancer all of a sudden, probably microwave radiation. My father died immediately. My aunt had Morgellons. They're knocking off everybody in my family, and they basically tell me I'm next. So,
Right.
when I go visit my mother at where she's buried, I have black helicopters that fly around where I'm at visiting my mother. I'll have somebody pull up in a BMW and do like this, you're next. And, you better be looking for your plot. It's horrific, really. It's horrific. Plus, I have a lot of implants, and they burn holes in my skin. You probably can't see it, but they burn holes in my skin. I have holes all in my skin.
And I'm a witness to that. Yeah.
I have massive burns. They burnt my neck so bad it caused Barrett's syndrome, which is a precancerous condition of the esophagus. They burned me so bad that they burn holes in my stomach. They burst every blood vessel that I have on my chest, my breast, and my stomach. I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of blown vessels all over me from lasers. And,
Thyroid cancer.
plus V2K, they read my mind real time. I had a handler who was CIA, pretty sure of it, and he read my mind real time and let me know it. And then I had to get away from him, and then I was homeless. Then my mother died. I mean, it just had been a nightmare after nightmare. So I totally sympathize with what you're going through. I wish you lived here, because we just get a place to stay and seek solace, peace.
Have you,
Right.
Crystal, have you ever ran across any honeypots? What you call honeypots?
Yes, definitely. And that was right before my divorce. Sadly, I fell for a honeypot.
Yeah. Could you tell us a little bit about that? If you don't feel comfortable, that's fine.
I don't want to go into too much detail on that.
That's understandable.
But yes, definitely, it ultimately caused my divorce.
All right. Yeah, my wife.
The marriage was already kind of in the toilet, but you know, it was a great marriage. You know, we never even raised a voice to one another. And in fact, after I got divorced, this person, and what's messed up is that we had a lot of mutual friends in common, and they post our divorce decree on Facebook as if I were some monster. I was like, because we had remained friends, and I'm like, why are they posting our divorce decree on Facebook like they were getting divorced from the worst person on the planet? I mean, I'm an empath. I'm empathetic. I just didn't know where all this was coming from, why I was being treated like some kind of monster. But, you know, it was a smear campaign that they even took part in, I guess, for money. It was the smear campaign, I guess, that got everybody going.
And the smear campaign basically isolated you, right? And I know that's what it did for me, and I know a lot of other targets. That's what the smear campaign does. It's designed to isolate you and leave you with nobody.
Well, yes, absolutely. And that the smear campaign is something that followed me around from 8 states. Like I said, you know, I played tennis in college on a scholarship, and I hadn't played tennis in 26 years and had recently started playing again. And when you play tennis, you know, generally you get hit by a ball, you know, and so I accidentally hit some women with the tennis ball. But that made me mean. I was a horrible person because I hit somebody with a tennis ball. It was a freaking accident. But people would say, we know what you are. We know who you are. You're mean. You're violent. You're scary. You're dangerous. And I was even called a pedophile in a couple of different states. So that's my smear campaign. I know everybody gets labeled with something. You're a pedophile. You're a wife beater. You're an animal abuser. You abuse the elderly, whatever it may be. But yeah, mine is a pedophile, and it's disgusting. I would never in a million years hurt a child. I would never in a million years hurt an adult. I'm a victim of a home invasion. I was helped sentence the man to 3 life sentences. I've been abused as a child myself. So I have been through so much in my life that, I mean, I would never, ever, ever lay a hand on a child or an adult, ever. All I've ever done is defend others. I've risked my career. When I tell you the 2 instances at work, those were me defending others. Those were me putting my career on the line to defend others. I'm going to quit my job in order to defend women who are being sexually assaulted at work by senior leadership. I'm going to quit my job because the woman that I worked for in the second instance was being very verbally abusive, screaming, "You're an effing idiot. You're effing stupid. You effing shouldn't even be working in this industry." Like, she was making people cry. And this woman, her name is Lynn, had a hit out on my head, and I proved it. And I proved it from driving from Dallas, Texas to Denver, Colorado to the police department there to give them the information that I had. And they told me that I needed to get an attorney immediately because they knew who the guy was that had tried to harm me. So it's been brutal for me. It's been brutal. My targeting has been very overt. I was robbed. I was in the hospital in February. So that was a gang stalking incident. I had a noise campaign. I had my gun stolen from me, for Pete's sake. I mean, I hate to go into personal details. I tried to kill myself in February. I have never thought of suicide once in my life. I never even knew how someone could even think about committing suicide ever. It was always confusing to me on how someone could go there. I went there, 1, because I couldn't get anybody to believe me. 2, I'm scared for my life. 3, these people I feel like are trying to set me up for arrest for sick crimes. Sick crimes that I would never in a million years commit. But I had my gun stolen from me while I was on death's door. I was on a vent for 4 days in the ICU. I had my gun stolen from me, and I had $1,300 in cash stolen from me while I was in the hospital.
Was you in ICU due to
And that
the
was just
attempt?
February. Yes.
Yeah. I've been in ICU 3 different times from 3 different attempts, so I can relate. I would never do it now, but you know, back at the time I was so messed up. But something just came to me, a memory just came to me when you was talking about smearing it. I did get called a pedophile in New Orleans on Bourbon Street one night. I was homeless, but I had come across money or something somehow. So I had a debit card, and I went up to the guy that called me a pedophile, and I was like, "Look, dude, come with me. I'm going to show you my record." I said, "I'm going to pay for it myself and show." "Oh, I don't want to see it." I said, "Well, get the F out of my face and don't call me that, dude. We're going to have problems." So I can remember I was called that before. But yeah, the suicide attempts, I cut my throat, I cut my wrist, and I took like 100 Haldol and 100 Ativan, was in a coma 5 days. So I can definitely relate to that. And you're not alone on that one.
I never thought I would think about suicide, but I have tried. I cut at myself. If you can see my arm, can you see that?
Yes.
So I cut on myself because it's like it feels real. It's like it's like, you know, I need the pain. It's real because everything else seems so fake. You know,
Right.
everything else is just altered, synthetic. It's, you know, so yeah, I do things like that I shouldn't, but a lot of the times I think the voices are telling me to do that. They tell me to smoke, they tell me to eat. I've gained at least 40 pounds. It's ridiculous. It's stuff I would never do. you know. And yeah, I think they
Right.
set me up. They're setting me up for some arrest for something that I've not done. So you just never know. You never know what they're up to. It's disgusting.
I have
Well,
not had the V2K to my knowledge anyway. I think I've definitely had the remote neural monitoring where they have the ability to kind of know your next move, but I haven't experienced any of the V2K to my knowledge. Maybe implanting thoughts, but not, I mean, I haven't heard any voices or anything of that nature.
Oh, I definitely do.
well, could you go in? Could you go into a little bit about your health and how this has affected your health?
I've lost a lot of weight. I have no appetite. I can't sleep. I mean, I don't even have a bed to sleep in. I'm in a cot. I'm in a cot in a back room of an old house. Like I said, I'm one notch above from having everything, being very, very respected in my career, to having nothing. So my anxiety is through the roof. No appetite, can't sleep, lost tremendous amounts of weight. And then, clearly my mental health with, trying to commit suicide is bad.
Right.
I'm in a bad place. And I can't get, and I feel like certain family members are in on this, and knowing that certain family members that are in on this, to include potentially I haven't talked to my son in a year, and I'm devastated by it. And, like I said, whenever all of this was coming down at once, I was having issues with him, I was having issues with work, my friend circle, etc. So like he was pushing my buttons. I lost my cool on him, and I called him every name in the book. So they use that reactive verbal abuse to then all of a sudden play victim. So that's impacted, I think, my mental health the most, is the inability to have a relationship with my son. Because I would never in a million years harm him. We had a great relationship. This had 2 days of calling him every name in the book. And that, once you say those words, you can't take it back. So,
Right.
yeah, my health and mental health is not good.
What are some ways that you cope with this targeting stuff?
My targeting is so overt, and it's so intense, and it's constant. Like there's always something happening. I'm not doing that great of a job coping.
Right.
I vape tobacco. That's my coping, and that's not good. You know, I wish I could say, oh yeah, I'm exercising. Oh yeah, I'm
Any praying, any spirituality?
meditating. Definitely praying, you know, doing a lot of prayer. But that's about it. And that's just being straight up truthful. I'm such a popcorn frazzle that I don't have, I'm very depressed. I don't have the energy to go out and go for a hike. I don't have the energy to meditate because it's not going to make it go away. These are people, and they're very powerful people that are continuously coming at me.
Right. It's exhausting.
Yes.
Do you think this will ever stop? And what advice would you give to any new TIs that might be watching this and going through the same thing you're going through? Because there are a bunch of new TIs that do watch my channel. So would you have any advice to them? And do you think this program ever stops? Do you think there'll be an end to this?
I think that there will be an end to this, and then it could pick up again. I think it'll end for a short period of time, and there's a psyop component to that, but then I could see it being rolled out to the masses. So I see it stopping for a short period of time, and then potentially ramping up in an even larger scale, just to get control of the masses. I mean, this is the same program, right? This COINTELPRO gang stalking, mass harassment, coordinated harassment, as you know, came from Nazi Germany.
Right. And they apologized for MK Ultra, and they apologized, and Bill Clinton apologized. But he apologized, but it kept going just under different names, if you noticed. Huh. Well, that's about all the questions I have for you. Do you have anything you want to add? Would you like to tell people that's watching anything?
Yeah, what's going on right now where you're living? Are you seeing people around the house? Do you get calls? Is your phone hacked and you see constant crazy messages?
Oh, yeah, I'm glad you asked that question, because I have gotten what's called, and I come from the tech industry, so I'm pretty fluent with this stuff, but artificial intelligence. And I want to talk about that on a couple of fronts. So there are chat bots. So I've actually had messages come up saying they were going to arrest me, they were going to kill me on these pop-up messages. It's AI chatbot IO. So they're disappearing messages that pop up on your phone. Those actually happened to me while I was in the hospital. I've only received like 3 of those. And one of them even said they were using code words for pedophilia for me. But those pop up on your phone, and that's artificial intelligence. Also, I've received emails that you can tell were written by AI because they're very in-depth, very dramatic, that a normal person wouldn't write. So, yes, it's still happening every day, but I am out in the country now, so the gang stalking of traditional being followed and so forth, that is not happening right now. But you know, for me, I'm miserable because I want to be in a place, I want to stay in a place where people get it, because that's the most demoralizing thing ever, right? Is no one wanting to listen to you, to believe in you. Instead, they just sum it up as you've gone off your rocker, and none of this is real, and you know, they just don't want to believe you, either because they're too terrified or they refuse to want to wrap their head around it and research. If this were your child, your brother or your sister or your mother or your father, I know that if this weren't happening to me, but this were happening to a friend of mine, I would research because I care about that person. So so I'm thankful to have a roof over my head, but no, I'm not exactly thrilled with where I'm staying. There has been conflict. I've had to leave here 8 times since September. So it is what it is, I suppose.
I love your story. I mean, I hate the story, but you've got a great story, and
Very thorough.
you're very thorough with it. And thank you so much for that. Um, very important. You've got it together. It took me a very long time to pull mine together because I didn't know what was coming from which direction. I got drones that follow me. They hover above my home. They follow me to work. They hit me through the windows with lasers. They put more holes in my face yesterday at work. I could feel I could feel the lasers hitting me. They're pinpoints. They're pinpoint lasers, and they come from drones. And they burn the hell out of me. I've had worse though. They used to burn my whole neck and my whole. If you saw my stomach, you'd be horrified. That you wouldn't believe what they've done to my. Trying to. I think they tried to make my organs fail by heating them up. They heated them
Right.
up, heated them up, heated them up. They did give me thyroid cancer, and I lost my vision, but um yeah, it took me a while to pull my story together. I even went to the FBI at one point, and they basically laughed me out of there. It was a joke. I
You
went
know,
to the
I
police.
actually, oh, sorry.
Sorry, I went to the police. I went to detectives. Oh, it's your husband. It's always the husband. And no, it's not my ex-husband. He's not. He can barely work Facebook. Okay, it's not him. I promise you that. So it's just insane. The first things that were taken from my home were um, a hairbrush, toothbrush, and sunglasses. They stole DNA items, and
That's, there you
that's how
go.
they got my
Yes, I had
DNA.
that happen. That's a good point. I'm glad you mentioned that, the taking of small items. I did absolutely have that happen to me. I've had like pocket knives. I mean, I'm a country girl, so I'm kind of a hybrid. I'm a city/country girl. I had my pocket knives stolen, things that can be used for nefarious purposes to blame me for sick things.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, I'm petrified that my gun was stolen while I was on death's door. It was
Right.
stolen from the hotel room,
Did
and
you report it? Did you report it stolen?
I did, but it took forever for the police to report it stolen.
Oh,
Like
well,
it
you're
took
good then.
over a month. Huh?
You're good if somebody uses that gun. You're good because if you got a report that it's stolen.
It took a month to get them to report it stolen, but yeah, I had to like stay on them to get them to do it. But they stole it from me while I was incapacitated because I was in a motel room,
Wow.
and like you, I had taken a whole bunch of Ativan just to try to, because I can't get a job. What am I supposed to do? I'm running out of money. I can't work. I'm being set up for arrest for sick crimes. My son won't speak to me. I've got people that I don't know very well that believe me, and people that, I had a great brand at work. People knew me as having integrity, being a hard worker, being someone to do the right thing, being someone who loved to laugh, all these things. And they would believe anything that I said because I had that integrity. So all of a sudden, what? Now I don't have integrity? Is that because of the smear campaign?
Right.
But
Wow. I'm so sorry. That's
Yeah,
horrible.
that is awful story. Is there anything that you would want is there any way anybody could possibly help you or any help you want to ask for on here or somebody and anything you could possibly, I'm
What
just saying
what
like,
about donations? Can we ask for donations in your name?
I may need that at some point. I may need that at some point. I'm not going to ask for it, right now, but I may need to ask for that at some point. I don't want to ask for it prematurely. I would love to be able to stay with another TI that got it, and a true TI. I think we know that there are a lot of absolute legitimate TIs out there, and I'm on TikTok, I'm relatively new to TikTok, and you see some TIs that all of a sudden turn into a perp. So I'd love to find a legitimate targeted individual to stay with that got it. That way I would have somebody to talk to and be able to get a hug, and not be treated like I've lost my mind.
Right.
Exactly. And that's another thing I was going to say too. For anybody watching, I saw this ad on YouTube last night. It says Q-Wave Defender, get off the targeted list, freedom for targeted people. Don't fall for that scam. People have been scamming people off of millions, and what they'll do is they'll show you a screen they'll show you a fake screen with your name on it that says you're targeted, and it looks like a targeted person. And they'll have your address and everything on it, and they'll be like, well, look, I can get your name, get you deleted off this list. Don't believe none of that. It's not true. It's a scam. People's lost a lot of money off of it.
I believe it. I believe it.
Any
And I know
TIs
I'm
watching
definitely
that might want to reach out to Crystal, you can put it in the comments or something like that. Somebody that might want to let her stay or be interested in helping her out and stuff. I'm sure she would be good at screening them. Because
Yes.
I'm sure there'll be trolls watching that might. But I guess they could comment under my YouTube or comment under your YouTube channel if they wanted to help you or reach out to you. Because we want to,
Yes.
we try to help if we can, and we know your situation, and we know that it really sucks being in that position.
Yeah, just be very leery of plants, fake TIs, because they come across so sincere and
Yep.
surprise,
Yep.
and
Yes.
they'll
I've
throw
seen
more
that.
honeypots at you. Watch for them because they're normally handlers, and because they profile you years and years and years to know exactly what honeypot to stick in your life. They know exactly what you're going to go for and exactly what you won't go for. They know you like a tea. So you be careful of those people. So just be very careful, and we'll pray for you. If we could ever bring you here, we will. Okay?
Thank you.
I
Thank
promise
you.
you that.
Thank you.
And you can have
Appreciate
a hug every day.
Thank you.
Well, I
I
guess
appreciate both of your time.
we appreciate your story and how thorough you are. I mean, keep being thorough, keep documenting, because your thoroughness could really, really help if somebody actually, one of these people that's putting these lawsuits together actually wanted to help people. Like your documentation and stuff is outrageous, is really good. So anyway, I'm going to end the recording right now, and you can stay on the line and chat with us for a minute if you want. It's been a pleasure,
sure.
even though we hate under these circumstances. We really, really thank you for your courage coming out and giving us your testimony.
Thank you. Thanks. Hugs.